this question, do we receive money from the donations made to the nonprofit? No, that's a blatant lie.
Yes,
that is a blatant lie.
That really is. But then they would tell us, like, if anybody ever asks us this in the field, how much money are you making off of this? They would tell us to just say straight up, okay, so 77% of your donation is going straight towards these animals. Only about 6% of that goes towards administration, and the rest of that is what keeps the orange shirts on our backs or whatever. 77% of your donation goes straight towards the charity. If they ask how much money you're making, just don't tell them, spend them something else. Pretty much try to avoid answering that question at any time.
Before we begin this interview, I just want to give a little context for those that watch the other videos in this series. Usually how these interviews come about is we'll get contacted by someone who wants to do an interview. It might take us a couple weeks, maybe even months to get back to them, depending on the amount of messages we have to dig through. We may set up an interview, and then it might take a couple more weeks to do the interview, and then usually a couple more months to get it published. So it takes a decent amount of time. This is a little bit different. So Anthony, you contacted us about a week ago. I think it was about a week ago. We're filming this right now in the middle of September, and we'll probably get this published shortly hereafter. You and another coworker contacted us separately, completely separate, but very closely together, about a company named Aqua Marketing Group. And this is an Appco company, which we haven't heard too much about in this series, but they tend to be connected with Credico, Per Diem, those types of companies. And the reason that I wanted to talk to you guys specifically was you alerted us to a name change. It seems like Appco is rebranding themselves as Ascenta. Can you talk to us, first of all, about Aqua Marketing Group and what led you to want to share your story today?
Yeah, sure thing. Aqua Marketing Group, it was originally a company that I found like last September, applied for, got the job and everything. Went and talked to my family about it, and they kept telling me over and over again, Anthony, it's a scam, it's a pyramid scheme, don't do it. So sure enough, I quit before I even started, but because things changed and I needed money this past January, went ahead, got the job back, actually started it. It was at first, I actually enjoyed it. Like, it was really fun for me to show up to. I thought I was actually making a difference in the world because our main charity was the ASPCA.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister, being a vet tech, I figured, okay, she has her way of helping animals. This is my way. So it was okay at first. Like, week 2, I was on a road trip down to like 2 other offices down south, like one down in Fort Lauderdale and another one down in Miami. Went and visited those offices. Didn't know we were really part of the whole bigger thing. So it was kind of funny, but overall, the atmosphere in the actual company, it was pretty strong. Like, sure, there was drama and whatnot, but we actually enjoyed each other's companies. Like, I would enjoy showing up to work, seeing those people.
Mm-hmm.
Then after a while, it was like, okay, people are just quitting left and right. Nobody really seems to want to make it past the first week at this job. Me being me, I kept wondering, okay, whatever they have going on, I'm not going to question it. That's them. Like, every Wednesday, we would do our same little Zoom call with the 2 Chris's, Chris Rudge, Chris Niarchos, those 2. And we'd see, like, the, I guess, wider network of Ascenta, like, telling us, okay, there's so-and-so offices, like, all over the country.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just one branch off from them.
We'll get back to your personal experience in a little bit, but I do want to talk about the overarching reason that we're here. So I want to ask you first, how did you even figure out that Aqua Marketing Group is a part of Appco, or where did the word Appco even come from? And then how were you able to connect the pieces with Appco and this new name, Ascenta?
Okay, so me and my girlfriend, we had watched, because we were on sort of bad terms with our office, we were kind of just wanted to do some digging into them to see if there was anything that we could find that'd be helpful to us. Sure enough, we came across this video of yours where you were interviewing this guy who used to work for the Tampa office. Then once he said Chris Niarchos, immediately alarms started going off in my head. Hold up, Niarchos, that's one of our CEOs. So I did some more digging on it, found Appco, all the slang this dude was using in his video, saying how he would go out there, ring or hit a boom, bells, drums, blah, blah, blah. The entire time I'm just going off in my head, oh my God, this is the same company. My girlfriend's over here. He's talking about Kwan's office. That's one of ours. So sure enough, we did some more digging. Turns out I didn't even need to dig that far, because if I would have just turned on my tablet, I actually could click and see, okay, Appco UK in big bold letters on there. So they just rebranded themselves as Ascenta, because they're still doing the exact same structure. Like nothing except for the name has really changed.
So where did the name Ascenta come from? How did you first hear that?
I first heard that in my first week at the company, because every Wednesday we would do this Zoom call with the vast network of other offices. And then there'd be the two main Chris's, Chris Niarchos and Rudge, who our boss, Michael Cowen, would explain, okay, this is Chris Niarchos, this is Chris Rudge. They're currently the acting CEOs of Ascenta, which is our primary company. Or who is the company that we're contracted by.
Contracted by. Okay. Okay. And I've been doing this for so many years now, and it still confuses me. I can't imagine how confusing it is to somebody who just gets in the business and tries to figure out what are we actually doing here. So Aqua Marketing Group, and as I do this, I just want to share the screen so that we can get this in the video. I did some research on Aqua Marketing Group, and they have this website, which honestly, it looks like a cookie cutter, any other website. This looks like it was, I mean, it's created by Wix.com. It tells you right at the bottom. So they probably spent about 5 minutes building this. But the thing that interested me, I went to the FAQ, frequently asked questions, which I'm sure these are not frequently asked questions, but they put these on there to frame their narrative. One of the things that, well, before we even get to the charity aspect, because that's a whole nother animal, but your boss, your whatever you want to call him, Michael Cowen, you just talked about Chris Rudge, Chris Niarchos as the CEOs of this larger company. Yet they have this question here on their website: are we a local company? And it says yes, which I guess technically they're answering correct, because their Aqua Marketing Group in and of itself is a local company. But if they are clients or whatever of this Appco Ascenta group, then they're not technically a local company. So that's a lie, right? And I went to their social media page, as one tends to do when they do research on these companies, and there was this one image here. Congratulations, Aqua Marketing Group, for making #2 in the country this week. Well, how can you be #2 in the country if you are a local, independently run business? That doesn't make any sense. And what are you #2 in? Like, it doesn't even tell you what they're #2 in.
I can answer that one, actually.
Okay. And then it says Aqua CEO is so proud. Like they can't even give you Michael Cohen's name here, even though he's standing right here. Like it's such a poorly worded story, a post, you know? So, okay, what were you number 2 in the country in then?
Okay, so when he's talking about number 2 in the country, they're talking about amount of money earned or amount of sales done in the week.
Okay.
Like they do this every week. We'll get that update on the Zoom call every Wednesday. Okay, so for the longest time, it used to be Fort Lauderdale office being number 1 in the country in terms of all sales. But then every so often, Aqua would actually outsell them and raise more money for these nonprofits. So then we take over as number 1.
Mm-hmm.
And that photo there is actually really interesting because it shows our other office up in Atlanta.
So that's not even you guys.
Oh no, that's us, but it's so that was one of Michael's other assistant owners who was able to go out and open up their own office up in Atlanta.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's deceiving. It's deceiving in that regard too.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2 in sales in the country, that screams something else. And what that screams is multi-level marketing. Because if you are, and they use whatever words, they say client broker, you know, Appco, Ascenta, Sidcor, Credico, Smart Circle, they're our client broker, or they help us with whatever lie they want to tell you. But if you take that parent company out of it, Aqua Marketing Group does not exist. You need Appco, Ascenta, Credico, Sidcor, Smart Circle, Cobra Group to have your office. You can't exist independently from those parent companies. So you're lying to the people you come across on your website. You're lying to the people who are looking to you maybe for employment, and you're definitely lying to people who you are soliciting for donations. Because if we go back to their website, and I think this is the one thing that bothers me more than anything that we've talked about in the past 4+ years of doing these interviews, is the charity solicitors. Because they talk about on Aqua Marketing Group's website, raising money for nonprofits. We raise money for nonprofits by engaging in events directly with the community. So that means either standing on a street corner, going to shopping malls, going to wherever, and they set up these kiosks, which if you go to the social media page of Aqua Marketing Group, I did see a few photos of what they look like. Now, of course, I can't find them now that we're doing this live. Here we go. So this one looks like it's in the actual office. So they have the kiosk here. You can see the iPad or the tablet.
Yep.
So, you know, these are telltale signs, even though they have the banner of the charity. If you see one of these and you're walking around town or in a business of some kind, this is a third-party company collecting donations. Here's another image of the same thing.
Oh, that's really crazy because that office right there, that was actually the old downtown office. They've actually relocated themselves to a, I guess, a sort of business strip type thing.
Okay.
Over in another area of the city.
Having talked to multiple other people who have done this exact same thing, it doesn't matter if it's for Appco or Credico or whoever. This question, do we receive money from the donations made to the nonprofit? No, that's a blatant lie.
Yes,
that is a blatant lie.
That really is.
Another, you know, a telltale sign, we do not accept cash donations because they want you to do the debit transactions, I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So I really, and there's, you know, I just noticed this now. How can you be a marketing firm and misspell marketing on your website? I know that's the college professor in me noticing that, but it's irritating to see that. But how can you say on your website, no, we do not receive money from the donations? That's a blatant lie. And Anthony, I'm sure you can speak to this because you had to do these solicitations, right?
I did this job for about 8 months. So the reason why we weren't allowed to accept cash, they would tell us all the time in the office, if you get caught accepting cash, and you tell Michael about it, pretty much if we told Michael that we accepted cash, or if he found out in some way that we did accept a cash donation, then a lot of the times he would be like, okay, personally, what I would do is take whatever cash donation that is and make an online donation for however much that cash was. But then he would also, in the same phrase, you would then be like, if I hear about anybody else going out into the field and accepting cash donations, you will be fired on the spot.
Like, why? And what is the motivation behind that?
So a lot of the times in the office, we'd have this, they do what they call impacts, which really is just them jamming the same information into us over and over and over again, calling it training. But in reality, all they'd really do is give us a few scenarios that we had to deal with in the field. Like occasionally we had a Karen that comes up to us and says, oh, your CEO makes millions, he's a scammer, blah, blah, blah. That's why you can't accept cash. At the time, I was just like, okay, she's crazy. Get her out of my way. Now it's more so, okay, maybe Karen was right.
Yeah.
Maybe she was actually onto something that I didn't.
Did you ever question where the money went? Because something that I always wonder about these charity collection scams is how you can go out in public and say all this money goes to charity, but you have to make money off this. Your CEO, Michael Cowen, has to make a more than decent amount of money off of this. And then there's the Chris's that go up the pyramid. So did you ever kind of wonder where the money was going?
You see, we actually would wonder this in the office quite a bit, but then they would tell us, like, if anybody ever asked us this in the field, how much money are you making off of this? They would tell us to just say straight up, okay, so 77% of your donation is going straight towards these animals. Only about 6% of that goes towards administration, and the rest of that is what keeps the orange shirts on our backs or whatever.
So 17%.
77% is
to the charity. Yeah. Okay. So then 17% would be what that would be what you would say you would keep to keep the shirts on your back, right? Because you can't just say 17% goes to us. You have to have some kind of cute little saying so it keeps the shirts on our backs. Okay. Did that sound realistic to you, or was there some doubt about that?
At the time, I kind of took a blind leap of faith on it. I was like, okay, I'm trusting you guys. Because this is information that my training manager, my now at the time crew leader, would actually tell us, is that 77% of your donation goes straight towards the charity. If they ask how much money you're making, just don't tell them, spend them something else. Pretty much try to avoid answering that question at any time. Except there were a few moments in the field when I definitely did tell them, yeah, straight up. So if I sign you up today for, let's say, a $25 donation, that's $50 coming to me. Or if I got like a $35 donation, that'd be like an extra $15 on top of that 50. So
see, mathematically, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
it just does not make any sense.
Yeah.
And I'll go back to, like, this isn't just me making this. I wouldn't even say it's assumption at this point, because I've spoken to so many people who've shared this exact same story, that the math doesn't make sense. And during my research on this, I came across this petition, which is now closed on change.org. This was constructed by a person that I got to know through this whole slave circle realm, Phil Vasto, and he started this petition to raise awareness about Appco Group and their fundraising fraud, about how they lie about collecting for charities. He uses a couple different, a few different sources here about media coverage of Appco and their fraud. And this one example, that probably the more famous example, is the Special Olympics, where only 7% of the money goes to the actual Special Olympics. The rest of it goes to Appco. And that's the only way that the math works. Like you just said, if someone gives you a $25 donation, you make $50.
Mm-hmm. And then our training managers make $5 off of every sale we get. So
yeah. So mathematically, any mathematician will tell you that doesn't make any sense. So the only way that it does make sense is if Appco is keeping the money. So that's why I always say in these videos, if you come across somebody who's asking you for donations, just go to their website. Just go to that charity's website, ASPCA. They have a legitimate website. They have a secure page where you can donate. Special Olympics, DARE, all these other like real legitimate charities that, let's face it, somehow benefit, right? If they didn't somehow get some type of money from you guys, then there would be no reason to have you guys. So they're getting something. But the worst part is, let's take the raw numbers from that article. If I see one of you guys in Jacksonville and I give you $100 donation, $7 of that donation is going to go to the Humane Society. $93 is going to go help Michael Cowen, Chris Niarchos, and Chris Rudge get a little bit richer. I don't like that. I'm going to go straight to the ASPCA.
See, it'd be funny because so this past month of like, I think it was late July, Boss Man had to take pretty much a whole month off because his son was just born a few months early, but that's his business. I'm not going to touch on that. But when he comes back, it's crazy because he walks in there with a brand new Louis V belt and the same $1,100 shoes. And then one of our other crew leaders, Ann, will then look at him and say in front of everybody, he's the only person who I've ever seen be gone for a whole month, but then come back with a new Louis V belt. When the sales in the office were really going down at that time. And when I say down, I mean like people were not doing quite as much as they used to.
Yeah. Did you get the impression that Michael was as well off as he supposedly presents himself to be?
Sometimes, like his brother, I was actually decent friends with, and he would actually tell us more about this dude's past and whatnot. Yet, on this dude's last day actually working for the company, he tells us, because we were in the field with him that day, yeah, Michael just paid me $500 to quit because he was apparently costing the company money.
His own brother.
Yeah, because he was about to ship off for the Air Force. So he didn't really, when he went to the field, he didn't really care to do the actual job itself.
Yeah.
So he's much better off nowadays, though. Not gonna lie.
The brother?
Yeah, he's actually about to get sent out to Korea, have a decent time. So
okay. When I go to Aqua's website, I see all these people on here. And you name dropped a few in your message, and I'll leave it up to you if you want to talk about anybody else. But these individuals that are listed here, should we know anything else about them? Are they upstanding individuals, or do we need to be aware of them?
Like the individuals, okay. So the people in that office, not gonna lie, when you go in for your initial interview, they tell you you're going to be doing this, but then you actually come in for your first day and it's like, okay, so we're not really a marketing company, we're a sales company specializing in this charity thing. Okay, that's how we keep losing so many people within their first 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
They actually do the actual job itself. It's like, it doesn't make any kind of sense. Like when I first started, I started with a group of like, let's say 5 people, one on a road trip my second week. Me and my girlfriend were the only people to stay from that road trip. And there was 12 other people, or like 10 other people on that trip with us. The fact that only us two stayed was ridiculous. Like, everybody in there, they seem to be decent people. Like, and she used to be a freaking daycare worker, but really but over time she just became power hungry. Like, she just wanted to open up her own office so desperately. I'd say most of the people in there are decent. It's just after a while, a few of them you see just get corrupted. Because when I did some digging on Niarchos, I was surprised to find out he used to be a champion stock car racer. Like, how the heck does somebody go from being this great to now being okay? That's weird.
I don't know if you'll know the answer to this question, but I'll pose it anyway. When I was doing research on this company, I came across a photograph on their social media, and there's this guy, Chance, who's holding these awards. Most kilowatts, solar rock star, rising star award. But there's a name on there that says Motion. Do you know what that stands for?
Yeah, it's the solar.
Motion is the solar company that
We have a separate branch in our office that also does solar sales.
there's also a branch in our office that is solar sales. In the field, a lot of the times, pretty much every day they sent us out there, they would tell us every day, okay, here's all this information. It's up to you to figure out how you actually disperse it in your pitch. And then a lot of the times, whenever we had somebody come up to us and say, okay, I just want to make like a one-time donation, my favorite thing to say would be like, okay, well, there's no, we can't put a contract on your heart or anything. This is just until you say otherwise. So about 5 days prior to each of your donations, there's going to be a little email and a text that gets sent to you with little instructions like pause, skip, cancel, edit. It's all up to you. Come to find out, there actually is no email. There is no text. They do get one email for their receipt, but after that, it's just automatically taken out whenever.
Sure. Yeah, I understand why they would do that, because why would you want to remind somebody, hey, this is going to happen, and give them the option to say no to giving you money? I mean, that just makes sense in your own interests as a scam, to not remind them of that. I get it. You got to make money.
What led to me ultimately being fired was I wasn't really making enough sales, and he would have to then, and because our base pay would be like, without any sales, it'd be $400 for the week, which he would then have to take out of his own pocket to pay us if I made like 0 sales.
Yeah.
I had enough 0 days to start accumulating and piling up. That dude would finally bring me into the office like almost every other day and say, okay, you need to start improving, blah, blah, blah. Trying to figure out what was going on with us, that we were actually costing him money. But then it actually got to a point recently where he just put me and my girlfriend here on commission only, essentially taking away the base pay of that $400 a week. He says all the time that there's no level of favoritism, yet when you go into the office and you start doing pretty bad, he'll mention, okay, I hate to throw his name out there because I actually like dude, Jalen. That's like his star pupil right there. Dude, you can throw him at like a Walgreens in the middle of the worst neighborhood in Jacksonville, and somehow he'll pull off 3 there.
Which is very strange to me.
But then when he sends us there, it's like, okay, 0. But then when we get back to the office, it's like, okay, well, I can send Jalen there and he'll pull out at least 2. But why is it that when I send you there, you get nothing?
Yeah.
Like, he'll put you at the worst spots in the city that are almost 45 minutes away, all the way down in Palm Coast sometimes. And he would like to stress in the office all the time that these setups, or these kiosks, as you call them, are $800 per setup.
It is true.
So
They're $500 a piece.
So if you damage them, that's going to come out of your paycheck. Or if you break one of these iPads, you're going to be the one paying for it.
And that's probably because he doesn't have enough money to cover those things. Because let's face it, he's probably not making that much money. He could have the new Louis belts. He could, whatever, $1,100 shoes.
Drive
uh,
around, Beamer.
yeah, I mean, you can appear wealthy, but not be wealthy. And and I'm not saying Michael's not. I don't know the guy, but if there's anything I've learned these past 4 years is that these owners will always look the part if they can, even if they might be struggling week to week just to feed themselves.
And they try to say, oh, you can make your own paycheck every week. I've seen, because at one point in time, I actually used to be fairly decent at the job where I could actually go and make almost $1,000 a week.
Mhm.
And how whenever I walked in the office beforehand or a few months ago, wouldn't even bat an eyelash at me.
Mhm.
But then recently would be like, okay, what happened? You used to go from making 16 sales in a week to now making or struggling to even get one.
Mhm.
Like,
So the two of you having worked this, you know how this is advertised. It's advertised as as an independently run business to help charities collect money for themselves. But having worked this and having experienced this, would you describe this as a scam?
oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Easily. Like they can, like when you first walk in the door, yeah, the office is nice and clean. It's nice and spread out. There's a huge TV on the wall playing music. People are used to be just having fun time and cracking jokes with each other. But then once Michael enters the room after a few weeks of not as many sales, then you like feel the pressure in the room just change dramatically. Like I had one guy who actually was able to train for about 2 days before he quit. Dude came from doing construction, and then he tells me when he's in the field with me on his second to last day, or on his first day, I don't know if I can do this. This job isn't really quite what I signed up for. Next day, he shows up to the office, is ready to go to the field, but then never showed up to the field itself. So they are definitely advertising it falsely, even during your interview.
Mhm.
You're going to be doing this, but really you're doing that. And it's after it was, I think, my third road trip, they gave me a trainee because I just did 16 sales the week before. So
Mhm.
originally the trainee I got was supposed to have gone to another partner of mine, Mackenzie, because she did 20 that week. They like to give the trainees to people who are, in their mind, outselling almost everybody in the office.
Mhm.
Yet over time it became, okay, I know this person can sell pretty well, but I don't trust him to train anymore. So he's just going to go to this Walgreens where if he takes a zero, it's not really going to hurt us. Typically in your first week, if you make your 7 or 6 sales to get your $200 bonus, then they're looking at you like you're pretty good. But then after a while, and you're only getting like maybe 4 a week, 3 a week, then they start looking at you in a different light. It's like, okay, he used to be good. Now we're just going to throw him here,
Mhm.
which made a lot of one of the people who recently quit, who I actually kind of liked, his name was Chris. No affiliation to the other two, of course.
Right.
He was kind of older, but then he'd be telling me about these conversations he had with the boss saying, okay, well, this is really more of a young man's game. A little warning to people if they encounter because like I said, we're not just one office. There's
like an office in almost every city in the United States working for
Oh,
us.
yeah.
there's one up in Boston right now. The stop lines that we use are very much derivative of the same thing. Like mine, they were a bit more creative. Like I would say, hey, pretty lady, you know, this is a walkway, not a runway, blah, blah, blah. It's cringy,
Yeah.
but it got people over. Like, just take one look at their stand. If it's like a wraparound or something, or you see them have a tablet, just walk away right there. Because I guarantee you, they are going to do anything in their power to make you donate. They used to call it impulse control or sort of guiding, making it feel like it's their decision. Like a lot of times, what I would do is Like, let's say I got an older lady standing in front of me. Immediately, my first thing that I say to her is, "Hey, young lady, come check us out." Start talking to her, making her feel younger. The second she asks us or says anything like, "Oh, I don't know if I can do this for a whole year, or if I don't know if I can do this monthly," I tell her, "Oh yeah, don't worry. It's all under your control after today. You call this number, you can cancel whenever you feel like it."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's Ascenta.
That's called manipulation.
Yeah, they want
We hardcore play with people's minds.
Yeah, like at one point in time, I actually do remember I feel bad about it nowadays because I had to lie to this little old lady who they don't want us to sign up anybody who is over 75 because statistically speaking, they have somebody else who's in charge of their finances. And there's also like 3 verification calls throughout the week. They just got to answer one to confirm it. But I remember telling her, "Oh yeah, I'm a history major over at Jackson University. A partner here is a child science major or whatever, and that we're not getting paid for this. We're actually just getting college credit." I outright lied to her, and I feel bad about that entirely. Over time of doing the job, you start to realize that you have a certain demographic that you attract. Like mine, I'm pretty sure if I go onto my tablet right now, it's going to be completely wiped, but it used to be where it was like a 76-20 split between 76 female and 26 male that actually wanted to donate with me.
Mine is like mid-40s males.
Then there was like an average donation, which of course for me was like $26.3. But yeah, they will teach you over and over again in this job various ways to manipulate these people into donating with you.
Sure.
Like the amount of times I've had to flirt with somebody in the field to ensure a donation, just ridiculous. They tell us not to sign up anybody younger than 25 because statistically they'll cancel. But I can tell you right now, there is more people getting signed up under the age of 25 than there are actual 25-year-olds on these road trips.
That if that happens, it's a major like grounds for termination.
If it gets up to Ascenta that you did that.
If it gets up to Ascenta, but if it doesn't get to beyond the ears of Ascenta, they don't care. They will not fire you, even though it's very fraudulent.
Wow. Yeah, I think you used the perfect word there. Preying. They prey on these people. They prey on everybody, right? They prey on the people they're trying to get to donate. They prey on you guys. They prey on their employees, and especially they prey on young people. This is nothing that we haven't heard before. It's just the continuing story of these MLM scams is that they prey on everybody. Before we conclude this video, we did come across some additional information we'd like to share. A huge thank you to our friend E out in the UK for doing some additional research on Appco and Ascenta. If you just Google Appco, you can actually find, just through a simple Google search, a lot of connections. I mean, Appco and Cobra Group are one in the same right here. And if you Google Appco and Ascenta, there's plenty of information you can find. One of the things we found was that there are a lot of names associated with Appco that are now associated with Ascenta. Sarah Fliss is one of them. If you look at her LinkedIn page, you can see a long history of work with Appco and just segueing nicely into Ascenta. And obviously anything involving Chris Niarchos is going to be somehow related to an MLM scam. So if you look up Chris Niarchos' name, just Googling Chris Niarchos, you can see all the different groups that he's been a part of. So Ascenta Group, CSA Holdings. He's of course also associated with Appco. This Glassdoor review, which was highlighted in the video, talks about how Appco has changed their name to Ascenta to escape from the bad press. Very common, associated with Cobra Group, as we've talked about in previous videos as well. So if he is involved, you essentially know you're getting involved with a scam. We also came across a couple articles that are linked down in the video description. Both of them are from this excellent blog called the Paddock Post. And this article talks about the charity No Kid Hungry and how they've raised money. And you'll notice down here that Ascenta Group, formerly Appco Group, made over $870,000 for their fundraising efforts for this charity. And if that sounds bad, it gets even worse. Here's another article from the same source from last year about if you were to donate $100 to the ASPCA, which, as was discussed in this video, is one of the chief charities that Appco Ascenta represents. If you donated $100 to the ASPCA, where would that money go? And if you go down here, advertising and promotion is the second largest expense, $7 million of which went to Appco Group, but then $7 million more goes to Ascenta Group. So in the year this article is analyzing, the ASPCA spent $14 million just on advertising and promotion through these scam marketing companies. And it breaks this down even more. If you donated $100, how is that money all broken down? And the conclusion this author makes, and it's reaffirmed throughout this article, is the ASPCA spends more on advertising and promotion than on grants, veterinary services, and operating supplies. And the very last point this article makes, since we're talking specifically about Ascenta Group and Appco, they use direct marketing to raise $11 million for the ASPCA. Noble cause, right? Nope, because Appco themselves, Ascenta Group, was paid $14 million. So that means of all the money the ASPCA received in 2019, $3 million of donations were paid to these direct marketing companies. For millions of people who donated whatever they could to the ASPCA, they actually donated to Appco and Ascenta Group and made Chris Niarchos just a little bit richer than he already is. But there are a lot of charities like the ASPCA that spend so much money on advertising, marketing, and getting involved in these scam third-party companies that ruin people's lives. It really makes you question charitable giving. And I think the bottom line of this article is how we need to end this video. If you want your donation to go further, do not respond to telemarketers. Walk away from the people that are canvassing on the streets. Give directly to the organization. Although based on these findings, me personally, I would recommend donating to a local humane society or a local animal shelter than the ASPCA.